The guy here is even colder, so I don't know. I'm on the tail end slide, I think. It's nice to be here. I had a little time to get out of the office early, and of course, DOT, I'm probably the only person that takes up for the DOT. They have so much in the way of road construction going on now, record road construction. It's amazing what they're doing. But it's always where I want to go, right? I-26, south or north from Columbia, there you are. So I thought I'll leave a little earlier, and I'll have time to think about y'all and what I want to say. Well, 10 minutes after I got in the car, an hour and a half phone call started. And I don't know if you've ever had an hour and a half of arcane accounting, government arcane accounting, that dealt with hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in hundreds of accounts, and I don't even get a chance to look at it. I just got to listen to it. Everybody else is looking at the spreadsheets. So my mind is fried. It's good. I'm glad to be here in Charleston tonight. I ran into somebody, we were talking about being down in Charleston just by chance, and a friend of mine called and he said, I'm speaking to the Sea Island Republican Women's Club. I said, that's great. That's a good bunch. You're going to enjoy that. And I said, now you do know it's different from Greenville. What do you mean? I said, well, in Greenville, they start everything with a prayer. At the Sea Island Republican Club, they start with a gin and tonic. And he laughed. I said, are you speaking? He said, yeah. I said, they'll love you. Give them a chance for 2 drinks, and you're all of a sudden the smartest guy in the room. I'm glad you mentioned, I'll do a little quick advertisement here. Unclaimed property. It's the best thing about my job. I get to play legal Santa Claus. I can hand you money, and it's legal. How about that? You know, it's no bribe. We have $850 million. And not one of you believes you have any money. That's the problem. Everybody is so smart. They never lost any money. We have substantial families now. And this is kind of a funny thing that's happened since COVID. We can't find a reason for it. They have one family in Myrtle Beach, just $1.9 million. Can't get them to pick it up. We have a professor at Citadel, $495,000. I've been hounding him for 2 years. I don't know what's going on. Sometimes if it's a single guy, I figure there's a woman coming or going, and he doesn't want to bring the money yet. You know, it's not my business. But it's an interesting thing. We have, in Greenville County, they gave me my Greenville County list. The first person on the list is $267,000. The second one's $250,000. The third one is on the list 3 times. It's $650,000 total. We have one family that I've been chasing for 5 years. I'm convinced they don't have any heirs left. And it's about $400,000. I can't give you the name because I know that even though we're in a church, somebody's going to say, that's me. But if you know anybody whose last name is Hardesty, Hinscroft, Rideau, if you know anybody's last name is Gallagher or Carroll, that's a funny thing. We're starting to get a lot of Hispanics now. They've been here long enough, their names are popping up, and some of these are $50,000 and $75,000. And you know, we have a problem in certain communities. They don't trust us. They've seen the 60-minute things where they tell you to come get free apple pie and then they arrest you. So when the Black House of Representatives members say, "Will you come to my district?" I said, "Only if you'll be there with me, because otherwise they're not going to believe a word." We salt the field. Then what we do is I get like Carl Brown, your representative's buddy. Carl's a great guy from Georgetown. He's a Black Democrat, and we go down there once a year and have we join a kind of a bigger effort of a community support, and we do unclaimed property. And so we always find what we call, I hope it's not disrespectful, a low grandma that we owe a little bit of money to. And as soon as we can get her hopping up and down in front of everybody lines up. They now trust us, so she's vouched for me, right? But this list is 12 pages long. You see how small the type is. And that's over $10,000 for each person on that list. It's funny, we go out and you know, you deal with politics, and it's not always the prettiest and nicest of things, right? I think government can just be boring sometimes. So we'll go out and try to find folks who have money. We were, had to go to Seneca and then go over to Clemson. And there was some money, a couple $100,000 in central South Carolina. So we said, let's stop by there. Well, address was wrong. So we ended up in a barn, found a 1926 Ford that's been in a barn for 45 or 50 years. Nobody knows it's there. The house is gone there, yeah. So it's interesting. But we kept going and walking through the fields in our suits and stuff. And we finally were successful in waking up a couple that had just come back from Alaska and they'd just gotten in bed. But they weren't the people, but the next door neighbors were. There's $300-something thousand, now I remember right. We had a different lady from Greer, and they had a, how do I say this? They had a, what's the term they use? Boutique textiles. Now, if you're a guy, don't pretend you know what that means. But it's high quality, fancy, and expensive tablecloths and other things. Well, they were so good at designing it, they made a fortune. I mean, right out of the box. They didn't even have an accountant. The sales started so bad. And they made a conscious decision. We can stop doing what we're doing and raking in the money, or we can stop and prepare a business and get accounts and all that. So they made the smart decision, just keep the money. What they didn't know was he was going to drop dead at 45 years old. And he was healthy, he was a runner and all that stuff. So she sold the business and left, and we had, I think it was $450,000. Couldn't find her anywhere. So finally I went to this, there's a website called Find Your Grave or gravesite.com or something like that. Found that her mother had been buried in South Dakota, but her relatives were from New Jersey. So I found that person, called, and the man who answered the phone was like that guy from the 1950s Teamster Mafia movie. What? So I said, hey, this is Saturday afternoon. I'm Curtis Loftis. I'm the city treasurer in South Carolina. We're trying to find your sister-in-law who used to live in South Carolina. We owe her money. Click. I'm a guy and I'm in politics, so I'm used to rejection. Don't like it, but I'm used to it. So I said, I can handle this. And besides, he's a long way away. So I picked up the phone, called him again, same thing again. Click. What can I say here? But I remember he's 700 miles away, so he's not likely to come find me. So I called him back and said, give me 30 seconds. I said, all I want is 30 seconds, and then I'll never call you again. He said, all right. He said, I said, told him my story and what I wanted. He said, all right, here's what I got to say. I don't like you. I don't trust you. You got the world's worst fake Southern accent I've ever heard. He said, I think you're probably that Nigerian prince who follows me around the internet. He said, but I want you off my back. I'm going to give you to my sister, or sister-in-law, whatever it was, and she's going to call you back. Well, she called me back, the nicest person in the world. Immediately started apologizing for him. And, the more she apologized, I could see the guy, he's got, what they call them in the old days, heaters. And I think he's the guy who probably set the cement shoes to keep so anyway, she got her $300,000 or $400,000, whatever it is. The story's been a while off. But the point is, go to the state treasurer's website. It's free. You put your name in. You can search for your brothers, your cousins, your sisters. You can search for your town. Your town will have money. Clemson, Carolina. Lindsey Graham's had money. I got Jim Clyburn called Jim the other day. It's been a couple months now. I said, Jim, got money for you. How much? And we know him in politics. He's not our guy, but he's a hilarious guy in real life. Everybody would like him in real life. And he said, how much money you got for me? I said, it's a lot. He said, how much? So now I'm just torturing him right now. I said, it's a lot. And finally, the leader comes out. I said, okay, it's $100,000. And it's Jim Clyburn for Christmas Club campaign account or something like that. And it got lost. Well, the only thing worse than me telling him that is him trying to give me his driver's license numbers and stuff like that. And then me trying to take it. So finally I said, look, you get a staffer, call my staffer, and they'll do all this in 2 minutes. When we through and you get your money. He said, deal. Well, so do that. And that's one of the things we do at the Treasurer's Office. The rest of the time, we're doing things that are a whole lot more boring. We managed, I think last night, what was in the bank and invested around the world was $44.4 billion. That's with a B. About $13 billion of that is local money, counties and cities. So we invest all of that. And it's interesting and it's fun and we're glad we do it, but it's not nearly as fun as giving you your money back. It brings us into a lot of other things. Like we deal with digital currencies and we're trying to fight back on that. ESG, things y'all all know about. And these things are really so insidious. It's easy to underestimate how bad they are. I look at them a little bit differently from everybody else, and I think that's because I went down the rabbit hole 7, maybe 8 years ago. Senator Corbett called me, gave me homework like every senator does. They give you something to do. Oh, yeah, I'll be more than happy to do it. Well, literally, for 8 years, I've been down that rabbit hole. In the last 6 months, I've been to 4 countries in 6 states, or 5 states, talking to people about ESG, DEI, anti-racism, the sustainability goals of the General Assembly. I mean, it's amazing what they've done. But I'll try to boil it down, and this is the way I look at it, is all of these things are exactly the same thing. They're speech and behavior codes. People say, oh, no, it's about investing. Oh, it's about race or sex or gender. No. They have given us speech and behavior codes. We've accepted them. And they have changed not just America, but the world. And it's the most amazing thing. And I watch it now, and there's been a lot going on with this Harvard case and several others. But you listen to it, and people think, we've changed something. Nothing has changed. The radical left will not stop. So these programs, ESG and all that, they're just getting started. They will change the name. I noticed in one of the bills in the General Assembly, they've gone away from evidence-backed to now science-backed. So they're constantly changing the language. It's the same stuff. I look at it. But it's insidious. And our problem is not the boldness of the left. Our problem is the cowardice of the right. Yes. I had a ranking politician tell me not too awfully long ago. He said, well, I don't want to really deal into this issue. And I can kind of see it because it really wasn't his issue. I was trying to drag him into something, right? He said, because I don't want to be called a racist. And I said, how in the world have you been in office that long and not been called a racist? I mean, everybody's a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, or whatever. And it's just, I'm 65, I guess the folks in here are younger and older, but it is unbelievable to me that the President of the United States can call half the people in the country racist. It's just, if you'd have told me that Mongolia was going to take over America, I could believe that quicker than I can believe what's happening now. So we got to fight back, and there's a lot of ways to look at it. Of course, the budget. Your votes. We got to do that, right? Pick your candidate, go to the wall, and then whoever the Republican is got to be better than who they have. You're talking about a real insurrection. We've had a coup. Both my parents died in the last couple of years, and they were in great health and had great minds right to the very end, and then they both went off the deep end and became senile for a couple of months, and that was it. We all know that. We've all been there. And some of us think we're probably headed there ourselves now, if you're like me. The fact that that man is claimed to be our president, let me get back on the path here. So we got to vote, we know all that. But there's something even more important than your vote, and that's your money. And we have really got to, as a group, think about that. Why do I say this? It all operates on money. After Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street started, this is like 2010, 2011, that's when the richest, most powerful people in the world, the left, most of the left, some of them right, coupled up with the radical left and said, here, we'll give you all the money you want, and we'll window dress it, but you leave us alone. And since then, they've made more money. They have gone from filthy, stinking rich to super filthy, stinking rich. And they're so rich now, the small little group of people who run the world, that they distort all of our tables and charts. You have to come up with new ways because just a handful of people cancel out so many others. It's really amazing. But it all operates on money. We could take the candidate that y'all think would change the world, because I'm sure there's some differences of opinions in here. We won't get into all that. But so you're back and you think about your candidate. That person, he or she could win, and that's a good thing. But if 35 million Americans, that's only half the people who voted for Trump, turned off their cable TV, the world stops. It no longer revolves around the sun. It doesn't rotate. The winds don't blow. It doesn't rain. The world changes that day. But we have a problem. We like convenience more than we do freedom. Now, I understand this is a room that doesn't. I mean, this is a room that'll do what's taken. But we got to think about the people not in this room. But that's a problem. Now, people will say, well, where am I going to get my Fox News? Don't get me started on Fox News. If you think about it, we had a conservative movement, an actual conservative movement, where people thought about the world and the interplay of us in it. Now we just have a soap opera. It's who's done what. They all got filthy, stinking rich, and we lost everything. So we can't worry about them, but we have to think about it. I quit spending money about 4 or 5 years, after I went down the rabbit hole. That's easy for me. I've been divorced a long time, and I didn't have kids. I don't spend any money anyway. But my neighbors are not surprised when I pick up their bricks off the side of the road they threw away, because I'm not going to Home Depot. I'm not going to Lowe's. I'm not going to Target. If you catch me at a Target, you got full permission to shoot me right there on the spot. And I know this crowd's probably packed, right? But we have to think about that. One thing's going to happen too. I'm going to end up filthy rich. I'm going to leave all of y'all a bunch of money, because if you don't spend it, it's amazing. You keep it. But we cannot continue to fund them. Now, this is not the best analogy. I was going to work on this on the way up here, didn't get a chance. But I remember the Vietnam War. I could remember somebody on my street, I don't know who it was, had come home from his training, and he had his uniform, and he was going back to the end of the street to catch the bus to go to war. I don't know if I was young, I don't know if he ever came back or what. But what if he'd come back for his vacation, and they got 2 weeks every couple of years they get to come home. And his daddy's sitting there writing a check to Vietnam, war relief. It's the same thing we do every day. Yep. Now, I know that people say, well, I watch church on Sundays. How about go to church, right? Amen. I watch football. I don't want anybody to look at my attendance, by the way. I'll make it clear. I've been a little spotty here. That's the problem with being single. You think, well, I can listen to it on my tractor or something. It'll travel a lot. And the guy will say, well, I got to watch my football. No, go outside and play some football with your kids or your grandkids. We just have to reorganize our life, because it is not the left. I don't care how much they hate us. I don't care how much they want to control us through our central bank currency, digital currency, or ESG, or speech and behavior codes. They're locking our kids out of school. Yeah, Coastal Carolina has 60% of its people, it's a 4-year college, 60% of its students are from out of state. And then you get a 60-40 split males, females. So we have a state-supported school where about 16 or 17% of the people are males from South Carolina. Let's just think about that for a little while. 60-40 is across the country now, female to males. And it's been like that for decades. People just didn't realize it. Carolina, University of South Carolina has been 60-40 in-state, out-of-state, and females for a long time. The numbers bounce around a little bit. And COVID made them all look a little better. But now it's going back out what it is. Women don't marry down. Right, Yvonne?